Pretend to be my wife at
Now
Christmas,
kiss
her boss
me.
pleaded. But she was shocked by his one condition. Snow drifted softly against the glass windows of the London office tower as Emily's heart froze in place, her breath catching when Ethan Cole, the young CEO she silently adored, stepped closer, his voice trembling with something she had never heard from him before. She had agreed to help him, but she had no idea how deeply this request would entangle their hearts. Before we begin the story, I have a small favor to ask. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in creating more dramatic stories for you. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Write your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. The moment Ethan made the request, Emily felt the ground tilt under her feet. She had expected anything, a holiday project, extra hours, maybe even a conference trip, but not this. Emily, he began again, softer this time, I need you to pretend to be my wife, just for Christmas, just for 3 days. His blue eyes were steady, almost pleading, and she had never seen him this vulnerable. But why me? She whispered. He exhaled slowly. Because my grandmother refuses to celebrate unless she believes I've found someone who truly cares about me. She's sick. I can't disappoint her this year. He looked away, jaw tightening. And out of everyone I know, you're the only one I trust. Emily's heart fluttered painfully. Ethan Cole trusted her. That alone was like a dream she'd never dared to voice. I'll do it, she said softly. But what's the condition? His gaze returned to hers, intense, almost intimate. That while we're there, you treat me like your real husband. Her breath hitched. I mean the small things, he added quickly, sensing her shock. Walking close to me, talking to me like we belong to each other, holding my hand, letting the family believe we're in love. A faint smile touched his lips. I know it's a lot to ask. Emily's pulse thudded in her ears. His family thinking they were in love? If only he knew how close that was to the truth she hid every day. I can do that, she murmured, though her voice trembled. As they stood there, inches apart, the warm office lights softened around them. Ethan's expression shifted, as if he wanted to say something more, something deeper, but stopped himself. We leave tomorrow morning, he said. Pack whatever makes you feel beautiful. The word lingered in the air between them like a spark. On the drive to his family's estate the next day, Emily tried to calm herself, but the moment Ethan's fingers brushed hers at the gear shift, she froze. He didn't pull away. Instead, his hand slowly turned until his fingers curled gently around hers. You don't have to do that yet, she whispered. I know. His thumb stroked the back of her hand softly. But I want to practice, for us to feel natural. The warmth of his touch spread through her chest like a blooming flame. She had dreamed of this, not as a performance, but as something real, something tender that only the young, secret part of her heart believed possible. When they arrived, the house erupted in excitement. Ethan's grandmother embraced Emily instantly, tears in her eyes. Oh, darling, you're even lovelier than he described, she said, cupping Emily's cheeks. Ethan shot Emily a startled glance, as if he had no memory of describing her at all, at least not out loud. Dinner that evening was a whirlwind of questions, laughter, and holiday cheer. Emily felt herself slipping into the role easily, until she felt Ethan's fingers find hers under the table, intertwining slowly, deliberately. When she looked at him, he didn't look away. He held her gaze with an expression she had never seen before, a quiet, growing yearning. And when his grandmother said, "You two look so in love," Ethan didn't laugh, didn't blush, didn't deny it. Instead, he turned to Emily, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, and whispered, "Maybe it's not all pretending." His breath warmed her skin. Her heart stumbled. The room around them blurred, the lights dimming into a soft halo as Ethan's lips hovered dangerously close to her cheek, like he wanted to give her something he'd been holding back for years, not days. Emily swallowed, pulse unsteady, her fingers tightening around his hand. "Ethan," she breathed, not knowing what she was about to confess, only that it was real. He leaned closer. "Tell me," he murmured, his voice barely more than a touch against her ear. And just as she parted her lips to speak, Emily's lips trembled, the truth rising in her throat like warmth breaking through winter frost. But before she could speak, the sound of clinking glasses and cheerful laughter pulled Ethan back into the moment. He straightened slowly, though his hand remained wrapped around hers beneath the table, as if he couldn't bring himself to let go. The warmth of his palm anchored her, steadying the rush of emotions surging through her chest. "Are you all right?" he whispered, bending close enough for his breath to brush her temple. Emily nodded faintly, though her pulse fluttered wildly. She wasn't all right. She was falling deeper, faster, harder, and the dangerous part was that Ethan didn't seem to be pretending anymore either. Throughout dinner, every small touch felt impossibly intimate. His thumb traced slow circles against her skin, a silent message she didn't know how to interpret. When someone teased him about being finally in love, Ethan didn't look embarrassed. Instead, he squeezed her hand as if claiming the words, grounding them in something real. By the time dessert was served, Emily's heart was so full she struggled to breathe normally, and Ethan, normally composed, kept stealing glances at her like he couldn't stop himself. She caught him once, twice, then a third time, his gaze softening every time she smiled. After dinner, his grandmother insisted they help decorate the giant Christmas tree in the living room, a towering pine glowing with gold lights. Everyone grabbed ornaments, laughing and sharing old stories. Ethan's arm brushed Emily's every time he reached upward, but he didn't shift away. Instead, he stayed close, almost protective, as though her presence calmed something restless within him. When the others drifted toward the kitchen for hot cocoa, Ethan quietly tugged her hand. "Come with me," he murmured. He led her through a side hallway to a quiet sitting room, dimly lit except for the soft glow of a crackling fireplace. The warmth enveloped him instantly, tinting the room in amber light. He closed the door gently, then turned back to her with an expression she'd never seen before. Open, unguarded, almost nervous. "Emily!" His voice was low, rough around the edges. "Earlier, at dinner, what were you going to say?" Her breath hitched. She looked down, feeling heat touch her cheeks. It wasn't the right time. "I want to hear it anyway," he said, coming closer. "Please." The way he said please, softer, almost aching, made her chest tighten. She lifted her gaze, and the moment their eyes met, something shifted between them. A quiet pull, a recognition neither could deny. She swallowed, gathering courage. "When your grandmother said we looked in love, you didn't deny it. It felt real, and it scared me because—" She hesitated. "Because I didn't want it to just be an act." Silence. Not cold silence, but the kind that crackled with meaning. Ethan's jaw flexed once, as though her words hit him in a place he kept locked. He stepped closer, until only inches separated them, his breath mingling with hers. "It wasn't an act," he said quietly. "Not for me." Emily froze, her heart tumbling painfully. "Ethan, I asked you pretend to be my wife," he continued, voice low, steady, "because I thought that was the safest way to have you close without crossing a line I shouldn't cross with an employee. I thought I could control it. But now," his gaze searched hers, "now I don't know how to pretend anymore." Her breath trembled as warmth surged through her chest. "You don't have to pretend." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The fire crackled softly, shadows dancing across Ethan's face. His hand lifted slowly, brushing her cheek with the back of his knuckles, a touch so gentle it sent shivers down her spine. "You're shaking," he whispered. "Because of you," she breathed. His lips curved into the smallest, softest smile, a fragile confession carved into expression. He leaned in, not kissing her, but close enough that her heartbeat tangled with his. His forehead touched hers, warm, grounding. "Emily," he murmured, "if I cross this line, I won't be able to go back." She whispered, "Then don't go back." His breath hitched, and for the first time since she'd met him, Ethan looked completely, beautifully undone. But just as his lips brushed her cheek, just as her fingers slid into his hair, the door behind them creaked open. They jolted apart. His cousin Lucas stood in the doorway, blinking. "Oh, sorry. Didn't know anyone was in here." He grinned mischievously. "Grandma's asking for the lovebirds." Something about taking a picture by the tree. Ethan cleared his throat, trying and failing to regain composure. We'll be right there. Lucas winked and left. Emily touched her cheek, where Ethan's almost kiss still burned. He let out a quiet sigh, then held out his hand. We should go before she sends a whole family to find us, he said softly. She laced her fingers with his, unable to ignore how natural it felt. They returned to the living room, where everyone gathered around the tree. Someone handed Ethan a sprig of mistletoe with a laugh. Tradition. Stand under it with your wife. Emily felt her breath catch as Ethan looked at the mistletoe, then at her. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped closer, lifting the little branch above their heads. The room quieted with playful anticipation. Emily felt the warmth of his hand slide to her waist, gentle but certain. You okay? He whispered. She nodded, though her heart raced so fast she thought he might hear it. Ethan leaned in, not rushed, not hesitant. His forehead brushed hers again, his breath warm against her lips. Time softened. The lights blurred. Every sound faded except the quiet, trembling pull between them. His thumb stroked her jaw. Her hands rested lightly on his chest. He whispered her name like it was a secret he'd been holding for years. Emily tilted her face up, and just as his lips barely touched hers, barely a breath away, the room erupted into delighted cheers, laughter, shouts of kiss. Kish. Ethan smiled against her skin, a warm, breathless smile that made her knees weaken. And then, with a tremor of longing he couldn't hide, he whispered, Emily, I think I'm falling. He didn't finish. He couldn't, but the emotion in his voice said everything he didn't yet dare to speak. And before she could answer, his grandmother called out sweetly, Hold her close, Ethan. She's already part of this family. Emily's heart swelled painfully, beautifully, because being held by him didn't feel like pretending anymore. It felt like the beginning of something she had never expected to have and wasn't ready to lose. And then Ethan's arm slipped around her waist again, pulling her closer than before, his breath warming her ear as he murmured, Come outside with me. I need a moment alone with you. Just us. She nodded, her fingers trembling as she followed him toward the back door, snow drifting softly beyond the glass. The cold winter air rushed in as Ethan opened the door, a soft swirl of snowflakes drifting across the porch. The Christmas lights from inside spilled onto the snow, casting a warm glow against the night. Emily stepped outside, pulling her coat tighter around her, though the chill wasn't what made her breath tremble. It was the way Ethan stood behind her, close enough that she felt the heat of him even through the cold. He closed the door gently, shutting out the laughter and music from inside. Now it was just them, in a quiet world of falling snow and unspoken truths. Emily! His voice was low, almost unsure, and she turned toward him slowly. Ethan looked different out here, softer, almost vulnerable. His hands slipped into his pockets, as if he wasn't sure what to do with them, but his eyes, those gave everything away. They searched her face with a longing he couldn't hide anymore. I needed to get you alone, he said quietly. Inside, with everyone watching, I couldn't think straight. And when I'm near you, he exhaled sharply, I lose control of everything I planned. Emily's pulse fluttered. Planned? Yes. He stepped closer, snow crunching softly under his shoes. I told myself this would be simple. A favor. A performance. 3 days, nothing more. His voice cracked faintly. But every moment you look at me, every time you smile, you make it impossible to pretend. Her breath caught. Ethan. He moved closer, the space between them shrinking until she could feel the warmth radiating from his chest. He lifted a hand slowly, giving her every chance to step away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather-light, his touch sending a shiver through her. Snowflakes melted on his skin as he cupped her face gently, like she was something delicate he was afraid to break. When you stood under the mistletoe with me, he whispered, I wanted to kiss you so badly it hurt. She felt her knees weaken. Why didn't you? He let out a soft, shaky laugh. Because if I kissed you in front of my entire family, it wouldn't have been a small kiss for show. I know myself, Emily. Once I let myself touch you like that, I won't be able to stop. Her heart raced at his words, warmth blooming deep inside her. He hesitated, his thumb brushing her cheek in slow circles. Tell me I'm not imagining this. Tell me you feel it too. She swallowed hard, meeting his gaze with trembling courage. I feel it. The way relief washed through his expression made her chest ache. He stepped even closer, his forehead lowering until it rested against hers, his breath warm in the cold air. I've tried to keep my distance, he murmured. But you undo me, Emily. Her hands lifted slowly, almost on their own, resting against his chest. His heartbeat thudded beneath her palm, strong, fast, real. Ethan, she whispered, you don't have to keep your distance. Something in his eyes shifted, a quiet surrender, a decision. His hand slid from her cheeks to her waist, pulling her gently against him. She gasped softly as he leaned in, his lips brushing her temple, her cheek, the corner of her mouth, as if he was memorizing her before he dared to take the final step. But he still didn't kiss her fully. Instead, he whispered, voice trembling, I want our first real kiss to be ours, not something pressured, not something rushed. I want to take my time with you. Her breath came out in a soft, shaky exhale. Then take your time. Ethan's eyes darkened with emotion at her words. Snowflakes settled on his hair, melting instantly from his warmth. He lifted her hand, pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles, then another to her wrist, slow, reverent, full of a tenderness she never expected from him. Emily, his voice broke slightly. You make me feel things I've never felt before. You make me want things I told myself I shouldn't want. Her lips parted. Like what? He stepped closer, closing the last inch between them until their bodies brushed. His fingers slid behind her waist, pulling her fully against him. Heat surged through her as he bent his head, his breath warm against her ear. Like waking up with you on Christmas morning, he whispered. Like holding your hand without pretending. Like telling my family you're mine for real. Emily's heart ached so intensely she thought she might cry. The honesty in his voice, the softness in his touch, the longing he didn't hide anymore. It was overwhelming. She lifted a trembling hand to his jaw, her fingertips tracing the line of it. Ethan closed his eyes at her touch, leaning into her palm with a soft, helpless sound, as if her touch was something he'd craved for too long. You can have those things, she said softly, if you really want them. His eyes opened slowly, filled with warmth and something deeper. Something that looked dangerously close to love. I do, he said, more than I wanted anything in a long time. Snow danced around them, falling silently in the soft glow of the porch light. The world felt suddenly small, intimate, wrapped around just the two of them. Ethan leaned in again, his lips brushing the corner of her mouth, a touch so close to a kiss it made her breath hitch. I want to take you in my arms, he murmured. I want to kiss you until you know exactly what you mean to me. But if I start now, I'm afraid I'll forget we're supposed to go back inside. She smiled weakly, her heart racing. Maybe we don't go back inside yet. A quiet groan escaped him, soft, deep, uncontrollable. He rested his forehead against hers again, his hands tightening on her waist. Emily, don't tempt me. She whispered back, I want to tempt you. His breath caught sharply. His fingers slid up her spine, drawing her closer. Their lips brushed again, barely, softly, tenderly, but he still didn't fully claim her mouth. Ethan, she murmured, why are you holding back? He let out a trembling exhale, his lips grazing hers as he answered. Because when I kiss you, it won't be gentle. And I want the first time to be perfect. Her grip tightened on his coat, her breath mingling with his. Then make it perfect. He swallowed hard, his control clearly slipping. His gaze dropped to her mouth, slow, hungry, and he leaned in once more. But before their lips could meet, the door behind them cracked open slightly, warm light spilling out. Ethan, his sister's voice called softly. We're ready for the family photo. Are you two outside? Ethan closed his eyes, a soft, frustrated smile touching his lips as he rested them against her forehead, breathing her in. Come on, he whispered gently, reluctantly. We'll finish this. He slid his hand down her arm, intertwining his fingers with hers. After the photo, I'm not letting the night end without you. Ethan didn't let go of her hand as they stepped back inside. The warmth of the house wrapped around them instantly, but neither of them felt it. They were still wrapped in the heat of what almost happened, the kiss that hovered between them like a living thing. Emily's pulse fluttered in her throat, and every time Ethan's thumb brushed her wrist, she felt her breath stumble. His sister waved them over. Finally, we thought you two ran off to elope or something. Ethan squeezed Emily's hand, a subtle warning for her not to react. But when he turned to his family, he smiled, a soft, private smile that made Emily feel like she was the only person in the room. Just needed some air, he said casually. His grandmother narrowed her eyes with exaggerated suspicion. Air or quiet time together? Heat rose up Emily's neck, and she opened her mouth to speak, but Ethan beat her to it. Both, maybe. Her heart flipped. They gathered around a massive tree, lights shimmering like stars in the glass ornaments. Ethan slipped an arm around Emily's waist for the photo, pulling her gently against him. She melted into the warmth of his side, her hand resting lightly on his chest. His heartbeat thudded beneath her palm, fast and real. Closer, the photographer said. Ethan obeyed instantly, tightening his hold on her, his lips brushing her temple in a feather-soft touch that stole her breath. She felt the heat bloom across her skin, her body instinctively leaning toward him. After the photo, his grandmother hugged them both. You two make such a beautiful couple. I hope this Christmas brings you everything your hearts are looking for. Emily swallowed hard, unable to respond. Ethan did, his voice quiet, sincere, meant only for Emily's ears. I hope so, too. And that simple line lodged itself deep inside her, warm and dangerous. They mingled for a while, each interaction a slow burn. Ethan never drifted far. His hand always found its way to her back, brushing her waist or resting lightly on her hip. Every touch felt like a silent promise. Every time he leaned in to whisper something, her breath caught. Later, when the family settled into the living room for stories and cocoa, Ethan tugged her toward a quieter corner by the windows. Outside, snow shimmered like soft diamonds under moonlight. He guided her to a love seat, sitting so close their knees brushed. You're quiet, he murmured. I'm just trying to process everything. He nodded, his eyes tracing her face with a tenderness that made her chest tighten. Me too. A beat of silence passed, filled with something electric. You look beautiful tonight, he added softly. I didn't get to say it earlier. Her breath hitched. Thank you. He brushed a stray strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. I mean it. When you walked into my car this morning, I swear I forgot how to breathe for a second. Emily's heart hammered. You never said anything. I couldn't, not with how you looked at me. His lips curved slightly. You make me lose all my logic. She laughed, nervous and warm. That's not usually a problem for you. It is with you, he said gently. Always has been. Her pulse stumbled. The room buzzed with holiday chatter, but here in their corner, the world felt slow and soft. Ethan shifted closer, his knee brushing hers again, his hand sliding down the side of her arm in a slow, barely there caress. Emily, he said softly, earlier outside, his voice dropped even lower. I meant every word. So did I? His gaze darkened, and she felt the moment turn heavier, deeper, like they were stepping into something irreversible. Just then, a small voice interrupted their quiet world. Ethan. His little niece ran over, holding a tiny gift bag. Can Emily help me open this? He smiled, running a hand through the girl's hair. Of course she can. Emily sat on the carpet with the little girl, helping her untie the ribbon. Ethan stayed standing behind them, watching with an expression she hadn't seen before. Soft, longing, almost protective. When the child hugged Emily tightly, Ethan knelt down beside them, brushing a thumb across Emily's hand with quiet affection. You're good with her, he murmured. She's adorable. His gaze drifted over her face for a long, warm second. I like seeing you like this. Emily's breath caught, a flutter rising inside her. After the presents were opened, the little girl ran off to show her toys. Ethan sat beside Emily again, closer than before, his thigh pressed against hers, and he let out a slow exhale. I keep catching myself staring at you, he admitted. You think I haven't noticed? He laughed quietly, his voice soft with something heartbreakingly sincere. You make it impossible not to. The fire crackled in the background, scattering warm light over his features. He leaned near her ear, lowering his voice to a whisper. After the family goes to bed, stay up with me. Her breath trembled. Where? Anywhere you want, he said, his voice a low promise. The living room, the porch, your room, mine. Her cheeks warmed. I just want to be alone with you again, Ethan whispered. I can't stop thinking about that almost kiss. Neither could she. I was thinking about it too, she whispered back. His hand slid to her knee under the blanket draped across them, his fingertips tracing slow circles that made her throat tighten. Good, he murmured, because I'm not done with you tonight. Her pulse jumped. Ethan? His eyes were on her lips now, the room fading around them. Not here, he whispered, but soon. As the night softened around them, the family slowly drifted to their bedrooms. Lights dimmed, voices faded. The house grew quiet. Ethan stood, reaching out his hand to her. Come with me, he said, his voice low and warm. Please. Emily took his hand, her heart racing. He led her down the dim hallway, past the softly glowing tree, past the quiet rooms, to the far end where a single door stood slightly ajar, his room. He paused, looking at her as if giving her one last chance to turn away. She didn't. He pushed the door open gently, pulling her inside with him. The room was softly lit by a single lamp on the bedside table, casting a warm, golden glow that made the shadows dance along the walls. Ethan closed the door behind them slowly, his hand still holding hers, and for a moment neither spoke. The hush of the night, the gentle hum of the wind against the window, and the faint scent of pine from the living room tree created an intimate cocoon around them. Emily's pulse raced, her hand trembling in his. Ethan took a step closer, closing the distance until the heat from his body pressed gently against hers. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, tucking it behind her ear with a tenderness that made her stomach flutter. You're breathtaking, he murmured, his lips hovering near her temple. I've wanted to do this for weeks. Emily swallowed, unable to meet his gaze fully, her heart pounding. Do what? She whispered, her voice soft, vulnerable. To kiss you, he admitted, the words hanging in the air, raw and unguarded. Not a quick, passing kiss. A real one that makes us both remember it forever. Her breath hitched. She had imagined this moment countless times, but now that it was here, reality felt heavier, more consuming. Her fingers curled around his hand, gripping tightly as if anchoring herself to the moment. Then don't hold back, she whispered, almost afraid to hear the answer. Ethan's eyes darkened, heated and intense. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, but she didn't. She tilted her face up, and when their lips finally met, it was soft at first, a gentle brush that ignited a fire in her chest. Her whole body hummed with warmth as he deepened the kiss, his hand sliding to her waist, pulling her closer until she felt every beat of his heart against her own. The first kiss was tentative, exploring, filled with the kind of electricity that made her knees weak. But with every second, the hesitance fell away. Ethan's hands cupped her face, holding her as if she were fragile, as if the world could shatter if he didn't. Emily's fingers tangled in the back of his hair, her lips moving in sync with his, tasting him, memorizing him, losing herself entirely. They broke apart for a breath, foreheads resting together, breaths mingling, hearts racing in perfect rhythm. Ethan's thumb traced her jawline gently, and she let out a small, shaky laugh. I think we should have done this sooner, she whispered, her eyes sparkling with emotion. Ethan chuckled softly, his lips brushing hers again. I've waited for you, he said quietly, more than I thought I could ever wait. Every day, every meeting, every glance, it's been you I wanted. Emily's chest tightened. And I wanted you too, she admitted, the words spilling out in a rush. I didn't think you felt the same way. I've felt it, he murmured. Every single day. I was just afraid it would ruin everything if I admitted it. His eyes searched hers, earnest and vulnerable. But now, I don't want to hide it anymore. The room seemed to shrink around them. The only sound the soft crackle of the lamp and their synchronized breathing. Ethan's lips found hers again, slower this time, deeper, consuming. Emily's hands moved over his chest, feeling the solid strength beneath, the steady warmth that matched her own racing heartbeat. She pressed closer, letting herself be held completely, feeling the weight of longing, anticipation, and relief that had been building for months. When they finally pulled back for air, Ethan rested his forehead against hers again. "Emily, this feels like the start of something real. Not pretending. Not a favor. Something only ours." Her lips curled into a soft smile, and she reached up to trace his cheek with her thumb. "I was afraid, but it's real. It's you and me." A moment of silence passed, heavy with shared emotion, before Ethan whispered, "I can't believe I almost spent all this time pretending we weren't meant to be together." Emily laughed softly, a sound full of warmth and relief. "You don't get to blame me for pretending, too. I was scared of all of this," she admitted, gesturing between them. "Of feeling this way and it not being mutual." Ethan's gaze softened. "You don't have to be scared anymore," he said, his hand sliding down to hold her waist firmly. "Not with me. I'll make sure you never feel that way again." She felt her heart swell. "Promise?" He smiled, brushing his lips across hers in a slow, lingering kiss. "I promise," he whispered. Minutes turned into hours as they stayed wrapped in each other's arms, exploring the newfound closeness that neither of them had allowed themselves before. Every touch, every whisper, every brush of lips felt like a confession. The quiet intimacy of the room, the world outside falling softly under snow, made everything feel suspended in time. They laughed quietly when their noses bumped during a kiss, gasped softly when hands brushed in ways that sent sparks through their bodies, and paused often just to look at each other, memorizing, appreciating, feeling. At one point, Ethan leaned back slightly, his forehead resting against hers again. "I've been imagining a life with you," he admitted, voice low and earnest. "I know it sounds crazy, but when I'm with you, I feel like everything falls into place." Emily's chest tightened with emotion. "I've imagined it too," she said softly, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. "And now, it doesn't feel like imagining anymore." His eyes darkened with a mixture of longing and adoration. "Then let's not imagine anymore," he murmured, leaning in to capture her lips again, this kiss slower, more deliberate, full of intention. "Let's start now." The snow outside continued to fall silently, each flake catching the light and glinting like tiny stars. Inside, the room glowed with warmth, love, and a longing that had finally found its match. Ethan's hands held her completely, as if letting go would be impossible, while Emily responded with equal fervor, her body and heart pressing into him with a mixture of desire and tenderness. "Ethan," she whispered against his lips, her voice trembling, "I've waited for this too." "I know," he murmured, his lips brushing hers again, "and I'll never let go." They kissed again, slow, deep, and unhurried, letting the world outside melt away. Every second was charged with emotion, every movement deliberate, a dance they'd never learned but instinctively knew. Emily felt herself completely lost in him, in the warmth of his arms, the heat of his touch, the unspoken promise that this wasn't just a fleeting moment. Eventually, their lips parted, just enough for them to catch their breath, foreheads pressed together, smiles soft and tender. "We should maybe get some sleep," Emily said softly, though neither of them seemed eager to let go. Ethan chuckled quietly. "Sleep can wait," he murmured. "For tonight, I want this. Us. Right here." Emily's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him close again. "Then we'll stay," she whispered. He pressed his lips to hers once more, softer this time, a kiss that spoke of beginnings, of promises, of a love they'd finally allowed themselves to feel. And in that quiet, golden-lit room, surrounded by the hush of snow and the soft glow of Christmas lights, Emily knew with certainty that nothing would ever be the same. Not their lives, not their hearts, not the love that had finally, at last, found its home in each other. And Ethan whispered against her lips, "I'll never let this end." She smiled heartful and whispered back, "Neither will I." They stayed like that, entwined in the quiet of the Christmas night, letting the magic of their first real love wrap them completely. As the snow fell softly outside, endless and silent, the hours slipped by unnoticed, the world shrinking to just the two of them, their hearts beating together in a rhythm only they could hear, a rhythm that promised a beginning, not an ending. And as the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, Emily realized she had found something she hadn't dared hope for, a love that was real, fierce, and hers. Ethan pulled back just slightly, his forehead resting against hers, eyes dark and searching. "I've waited for this," he said softly. "Do you know how long I wanted this?" Emily shook her head, breathless. "Too long," she admitted, her lips brushing his. "Not too long," he corrected, pressing another soft kiss to her temple. "Just long enough for me to know you're the one I want. Always." She smiled, her heart trembling. "Then we have forever." Ethan's lips found hers again, a kiss slow, deep, and unyielding, as if sealing the promise of love that had finally, irrevocably begun. And in the quiet warmth of the Christmas morning, wrapped in each other's arms, Emily knew without a doubt this was just the beginning. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Ethan's room, scattering golden light across the snow-dusted garden outside. Emily stirred slightly, feeling the warmth of his body press against hers. The events of the past night replayed in her mind like a dream she wasn't ready to wake from. Every brush of his lips, every whispered promise, every touch that had sent electricity straight to her heart. For the first time, she didn't feel like a mere observer in her own life. She was at the center of it, and at the center of someone else's heart too, Ethan's heart. He shifted slightly in his sleep, murmuring her name, and she pressed her lips softly against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. It was grounding, reassuring, and intimate in a way she had never experienced before. All the fears, all the hesitation, the pretending and the waiting, it had led to this moment of pure, undeniable connection. Emily realized that sometimes life demanded patience, but when it delivered with a force that made every second of waiting worthwhile. When Ethan finally woke, his eyes fluttered open, still hazy from sleep. The first thing he saw was Emily, her hair falling softly across her face, her cheeks flushed with warmth. His lips curved into that effortless, magnetic smile that always had a way of stopping her heart mid-beat. "Morning," he whispered, his voice rough with lingering sleep and tenderness. "Morning," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper, though her pulse thrummed as though it wanted to speak the words her lips could not. She felt a surge of love, so profound it almost knocked her breath away. Ethan's hand found hers instinctively, his fingers intertwining with hers, the small, tender gesture speaking volumes. "Last night," he began, but paused, searching her eye for something he couldn't quite put into words. Emily tilted her head, letting a small smile curve her lips. "It was real," she whispered. "Everything. Not pretending, not acting. Just us." His gaze softened, the intensity in his eyes replaced by a warm, quiet adoration. "Then let's make sure it never stops being real," he said, his thumb brushing across the back of her hand. "No more pretending. No more hiding what we feel. I want the world to know, I want you to know, that you're mine, Emily, completely." Her chest tightened with happiness, and she leaned closer, resting her head against his shoulder. "And I want you, Ethan. All of you. Always." The morning stretched lazily, the golden light painting the room in warm hues. For the first time, Emily felt that every glance, every laugh, every stolen touch in the past had been building toward this, a love so alive, so palpable, that even the walls of the grand estate seemed to hum in approval. By the time the family started to stir, Ethan and Emily were still wrapped around each other, whispering softly, stealing kisses whenever no one was looking. His grandmother, spotting them from the doorway, smiled knowingly, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Finally," she murmured, "about time you two realized what everyone else could see from miles away." Emily laughed softly, burying her face in Ethan's chest, the warmth spreading through her like sunlight. "We just took our time," she said, though she didn't need to explain. Ethan held her closer, his lips brushing the top of her head. Sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for. Throughout the day, they moved almost in sync, whether in the kitchen helping prepare Christmas brunch or arranging the living room for festive gatherings. Every glance was charged with quiet understanding. Every brush of hands a subtle declaration of their love. Emily noticed how protective and attentive Ethan was without being overbearing, how every small gesture made her feel cherished and adored. It was a rhythm, a language unique to them, spoken in smiles, touches, and whispered words. When it was time to open presents, Ethan's hand never left hers. He pulled her closer as the little niece squealed with delight over her gifts, sharing soft laughter with Emily. She found herself laughing too, but her eyes kept finding Ethan's, and each glance was a silent confirmation that this was more than a fleeting moment. It was a foundation of a love that would shape both of their lives. Later, as the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the snow-covered garden, Ethan led Emily outside. The winter air nipped gently at their cheeks, and the soft crunch of snow under their boots echoed in the stillness. He stopped in the middle of the garden, pulling her into his arms. Emily looked up, the snowflakes catching in her hair like tiny diamonds. "I've waited for so long," Ethan whispered, his forehead resting against hers. "And now, having you here, feeling this, it's more than I could have imagined. You've turned everything upside down, Emily, but in the best way possible. You become everything." Her breath caught, and she pressed her hands to his chest. "Ethan, you've always been everything to me," she admitted softly, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "I didn't want to admit it, didn't want to hope, but now I know. I can't imagine my life without you." He smiled, tilting her face up, and kissed her slowly, deeply, with a kind of intensity that made her knees weaken and her heart soar. The snow swirled around them, the world outside fading into a blur as their kiss deepened, a promise sealed in the quiet magic of the moment. When they finally pulled apart, gasping softly, Ethan cupped her face in his hands. "Emily, I want this, us forever," he whispered. "No pretending, no limits, no holding back. Just love, real, unshakable love." Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but she laughed softly, the sound full of relief and joy. "Then that's what we'll have. Forever." The rest of the day was a perfect dance of closeness and intimacy, of gentle touches, quiet whispers, and shared laughter. They exchanged small gifts, each one thoughtful and personal, and every time Ethan looked at her, Emily felt like the only person in the universe. There was a purity in their love now, a clarity that made every past worry, every fleeting glance of longing, every moment of hesitation feel like it had been leading to this, a Christmas where two hearts finally found their home in each other. As evening fell, Ethan and Emily sat by the fireplace once more, the warm glow reflecting in their eyes. Snow continued to drift softly outside, and the air was rich with the scent of pine and cinnamon. Ethan pulled Emily close, holding her as if the world outside didn't exist. "You've made my life brighter than I ever thought possible," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her temple. "And I want to keep doing this, loving you, protecting you, making you happy, for every Christmas, every day, every moment." Emily's lips curved into a smile, her heart swelling. "And I'll hold you to it," she teased softly, though her eyes were misty with emotion. "I'll never let you forget that you're mine, too." He laughed softly, brushing a kiss across her forehead. "Never," he promised. "And I mean it, Emily, every word, every promise. You're mine, completely, and I'm yours, always." The night deepened around them, but in the glow of the fire and the quiet magic of the first real Christmas they shared together, time seemed to stop. Each kiss, each touch, each whispered word was a declaration, a vow, a beginning. There was no pretending anymore. There was no hesitation, no fear, no doubt. Only the two of them, entwined in a love that had waited patiently, fiercely, and had finally arrived in full, magnificent bloom. Emily rested her head against Ethan's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of the heartbeat, feeling the warmth and safety that came with it. She closed her eyes, letting herself be enveloped in the moment, in the love that was as real as the snow falling outside, as deep as the night sky above. Ethan's lips found her hair again, pressing soft kisses along the strands, and whispered, "I promise, every Christmas, every moment, I'll love you like this. I'll choose you over and over again. Emily smiled softly, her heart brimming. And I'll love you back, Ethan. Just as fiercely, just as completely. They stayed there as the night stretched on, wrapped in each other, the world outside silent and still. And in that silence, filled only with warmth, whispers, and the quiet magic of a Christmas that had transformed everything, Emily realized that this love, this connection, this promise, was the kind of story people wrote novels about, movies try to capture, but only she and Ethan truly lived. And in the stillness, as the first snowflakes of the new day settled on the garden, Emily whispered softly against his chest, "I think this is only the beginning." Ethan smiled against her hair, his arms tightening around her. "Yes," he whispered back, "only the beginning of forever." The fire crackled. The snow shimmered outside, and in that perfect, golden, intimate moment, Emily and Ethan knew, without a single doubt, that their love was unstoppable, unbreakable, and magnificent. It was a love that would echo through every Christmas, every winter, every quiet night, carrying the memory of a moment when hearts found each other completely and forever. And in that knowledge, in that warmth, in that tender, breathtaking intimacy, they held each other, knowing the story of their love had only just begun, and the rest of their lives would be a breathtaking continuation of this perfect, magical, eternal Christmas.